Hey everyone, it's Finch here, and we're here for the long-awaited team building video. So basically, a lot of people have been asking me about kind of how I make the teams I make, what goes through the process of that, and first and foremost, I want to highlight this thread, the Viability Rankings. I always have a tab open with it when I'm building. I don't necessarily use it to kind of like dictate what I do and do not use. I try to keep my mind open, and sometimes I end up with more standard teams than most. Anyway, but I try my best to keep my mind open. But it's always nice to have this list. So if say I need to compress a couple things in one slot, I can figure out how to the best of my abilities when I have an actual like resource to list Pokemon. So a viability ranking list is huge, and you'll see most Pokemon in the upper echelon of these ranks included in this video as well. But definitely something I'd keep open. And I guess it's worth noting that this is actually going to be posted on Smogon. This video, kind of a bit of a team building resource / insights in the metagame discussion thread, but also it's meant for the purpose of my YouTube channel as well. So just kind of killing two birds with one stone because I'm involved with a lot right now, and I figured why not. Um, anyway, so metagame right now, the metagame right now rather, is kind of cyclical or rather similar / standardized at this point, a couple months in, compared to the last couple generations. In a way, it kind of has like a black and white or an ADV feel to it for those who have wandered their way backwards into the past generations or played for that long, like myself when I played. I started black and black white, and it's become a pretty standardized metagame over time. But anyway, so you'll notice that there are a lot of things that you see very commonly. For example, rockers. The most common rocker is Seismitoad right now. You see it a ton because it checks Red and Heat, checks Dracovish, which is hard to do. It sets up rocks quite well. It has the ability to use Toxic, which makes it annoying to switch into and kind of forces status absorbers like Clefable or even Toxapex to be used. And on top of that, it also does okay against most common foggers besides Zatu. Removers are besides Zatu, Beach Cinderace, and Excadrill, able to Toxic Mandibuzz, and eventually Scaldburn versus Corviknight, and with Wish Support, you should be able to do that in the long haul almost every time. Doesn't keep rocks up like super well against them, but like you typically cripple them, which is big, defensively speaking. And then again, among the removers, you'll notice that Defog, Corviknight, or Mandibuzz, one of them is finding their way into more teams than not nowadays. It's pretty common. Speech Control, you notice a lot of Scarf Rotom Heat, and Scarf Dragons, and occasionally Priority from Conkeldurr, H/. Actually, all these are pretty common. While these, like, besides those most common, these two are most common. You see all these pretty often, and a lot of them serve like double or triple purposes, which we know as role compression for those of you that are newer. So basically, like you could do one thing, like you could be a Twitch Scarfer, but you could also be a ground immune, like Rotom Heat, or Fairy Resist, so check Life or Clef temporarily, and threaten Trick, kind of like a breaker. Or if you're an Aegislash, you could threaten like to revenge kill a Dragapult, or something else that's chipped with Choice Banded Shadow Sneak from the Choice Band set. But you could also be like Fairy and Fighting check in a pinch, especially if you're not switching into Earthquake, which would be stupid, and so on and so forth. Like, for example, Seismitoad's a rocker, but it's also kind of a physical tank, especially with Wish support. So it lets it check Dracovish, it lets it check Excadrill in a pinch, and so on and so forth. A lot of these Pokemon can serve multiple purposes, and that's why they're so common, because you want to cover everything while getting into your like main idea or core. If that core is maybe a bit more offensively oriented, you cannot cover it much defensively. Because you only have 6 slots in every team, so you want to make the most and cover as much as you can, while also being able to make progress and win games. So it's kind of, in my eyes, when building balanced or bulky offense, really a priority on covering the best of both worlds, if you will. Kind of that, I would say. Whereas if you're building more of a hyper offense or stall, this video might be a bit less applicable, unfortunately. But hyper offense is already a very established archetype, and you'll see it all the time in ladder and stall. I mean, it's okay, not really great. I wouldn't advise using it in the current metagame, honestly. But there are some teams, especially with Doug Trio, that you see on the ladder right now. I'm actually not talking about Doug in general in this video, just because I don't think it's great. I haven't explored a ton with it since Dharm got banned, and it's probably best off on those kind of trap-oriented, stall-y or bulky builds that I just don't want to get into yet because I don't have the experience with. This is more for bulky offense / more often balanced teams, I guess you could say. But anyway, again, every team pretty much you'll see Clef on more teams than not nowadays, and that fit those archetypes. And Sylveon's also super common. You pretty much see a fairy type on every team now, I'd say. I mean, with Conkeldurr being so common, Dragapult, Hydreigon, just having a countermeasure against them is fantastic. Moving forward, you also want to have a steel type on pretty much every team. Sometimes if you've got a fairy type plus like a fat Rotom, maybe you could get by with like the Wish Support like getting you by. But I wouldn't really advise doing that too often. Ferrothorn, is a great one, but honestly, it's less common than both Corviknight and Aegislash. It's probably equally common as Excadrill, just because it kind of gets buried. It's not like it doesn't fit on those generic cores as often, Ferrothorn, unless you like switch something up. So you like say you want to use Stealth Rock Ferrothorn, then great, you're going to get to use it. You're probably not going to be using Seismitoad then, but that's fine. You could use other things to fill those roles, such as Gastrodon, for example, which we'll get down to later, more niche Pokemon. But yeah, no, there are a lot of ways to do it. Then you've got breakers, win conditions. My personal favorites right now are Gengar and Aegislash. I love the ghost types. And as you've seen through all of the lives I've actually posted on this channel and my Climb Up the Ladder, I think Specs Gengar is ridiculous. Nasty Plot Life Orb is probably great too. And both Specs and Band Aegislash are great. And there's like Conkeldurr, Hydreigon, Life Orb, Nasty Plot set is devastating. Also runs like Wise Glass or Leftover essentially, but kind of got to depend on the damage output against Fairy. You got to be careful of that. Specs or even like a Hex set on Dragapult can be great. X still runs a devastating Swords Dance variant. I mean, you go down the list. But so what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna build a team for you guys because you guys have seen me use plenty of teams on this channel, and a lot of them are pretty similar. You see the same structure, and I don't want to lead you guys down the same like building path that I've been building for the last like couple of weeks, just because I think this formula is pretty good in the ladder right now. It doesn't mean shit. You should be able to build your own teams with your own ideas. Moreover, I just want to present you guys like what I think is viable / good, and explain why. Kind of give like some frame of reference set wise, and so that's why I've made all these lists and kind of I'll explain the roles, what they do, what they answer to, etc. And from there, you could build your own teams, draw your own conclusions. If you are not comfortable doing that, there's also still Rate My Teams on the subform, Rate My Team subform on Smogon. There's more of a less casual variant of that, the SMU Bazaar in the OU subform. Maybe Bazaar, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But that's a thread that has been posted that people just can casually post their teams. And then you can always like do the shake it up method and find replays and kind of take the moves off there and find like the analysis spreads or like calculate from the games and do that and stalking down players. Even I've done that before and I've been around forever, so don't hesitate. Anyway, so you see I kind of have a bit of a pattern, and that's fine. I mean, thankfully I'm not playing SPL, otherwise people would scout this and eat me up probably, but I'm playing black, white, and SPL, so it's lit. Or I've got my own different set of patterns, by the way. Anyway, so we're going to start by going through rockers. Every team should have a rocker, period. Some of these other things might not be needed on every team, but rather like most teams, or not even that much as we get down the list. But yeah, so every team needs a rocker. And I just noticed that this screws with my dimensions. Fuck, so we're going to go to the... Oh, this doesn't work either. Great. Okay, so we're going to actually just talk about them outright. Fuck. Okay, yeah, we're gonna talk about them outright. That's fine. So rockers. The first one is Seismitoad. So I'm just gonna show you guys the set I use in it. Leftovers is the item. It's cut off. I know. Order of Stealth Rock's called Earthquake Toxic. That's the standard set. Some people run Earth Power of Earthquake. I prefer Earthquake for extra damage output against Life Orb to Fable. Also helps against Tyranitar and some more specially defensive things, and just stronger in general against like Excadrill, Cinderace, chance to kill after a minimal chip. Probably kills Gengar in one hit, which Earth Power needs rocks to do, I think. And so on and so forth. Also actually puts a dent into like special defensive packs. Earth Power doesn't even dent physically defensive packs much at all. Yeah, it does mean you have for minus speed, but I actually kind of like that because it lets you be slower than Corviknight. Anyway, it's a great, superb rocker. It's one of the few natural checks to run Heat who runs, obviously, Overheat and Volt Switch / Discharge / Thunderbolt. So yeah, it's immune to the electric attacks, whereas the the fire moves are kind of just shrugged off. Even at +2, it shouldn't do much over half. Moreover, it's able to beat Dracovish with Vicious Rend, which is really cool in my eyes. Not many things can do that. You pretty much need a water immunity or like something like Ferrothorn or Toxapex on every team, unfortunately. Because of that, it's actually become less of a problem recently, if only because people have just stopped using Dracovish because it's kind of a cheesy Pokemon. But yeah, it's nice for that. It's also just a nice, sturdy Pokemon in general. I mean, if you go down to my build ranks, you'll see there are a lot of offense Pokemon. There are also a lot of bulky Pokemon, and Seismitoad is definitely in the bulkier end. It's not able to be trapped by Dugtrio, even Choice Band Earthquake wouldn't tweak you out. 1v1 Excadrill, in fact, lead Excadrill does well against. Obviously, it also walls Red and Wash. Cinderace, the potential other remover, does not mind it much at all. Court change, great, but then you're just taking 90-some-odd% from an Earthquake, if not more, and then it could just get rocks up again later. So yeah, it's a nice metagame pick, But with that said, while a lot of standard teams elect to use Seismitoad, there are alternative options that open up other ways of using different Pokemon in team building. And in a way, that's kind of why I call it cyclical, or maybe you could say there's kind of different inputs that lead to different outputs that kind of validate a lot of different Pokemon being used. If you want to look at it a little more scientific or methodical way, that is completely fine. Whatever kind of helps you learn. But yeah, I feel like building has kind of been complicated to a lot lesser extent after Dexit, once the metagame settled a little bit. And again, this is not saying that all teams should be like this, even all balanced or both, because there's no way. It's Pokemon's still a game with infinite possibilities, and there are going to be more rockers, there are going to be more trends, there are going to be more movers, etc. Things are going to pop up, things are going to stop popping up, etc. One day, Seismitoad might go from being an A plus Pokemon to being a C plus Pokemon. It's been that way. Last two generations, it's been mediocre and OU at best, and it's been more of an NU/RU Pokemon. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But Seismitoad's definitely a top tier rocker right now. So that's something worth noting, of course. And moving on to the other rockers, you also have Ferrothorn, Clefable, Excadrill, Como-O, and Hippowdon. I'm going to go through them one by one now, quickly. Ferrothorn generally is used more of a spiker in historically in other generations, but it can rock quite nicely in this generation. It gives you a steel type. It also is a nice check to Rotom Wash. Should be able to sponge a lot of neutral hits as well. It should be able to also eat Dracovish, especially since it runs physical defense right now. Yeah, it's a bit hard to use. It doesn't really hard counter anything, and it enables things like Clefable, especially if it's not running Gyro Ball. And Mandibuzz doesn't mind it before knock, and then you knock it, Conkeldurr eats it up, etc. So it's not the best metagame pick. Ferrothorn's seen better days, but it's still an OU staple, and there's no getting around that. It can run Bleach Protect, which is always annoying, Thunder Wave, Knock Off. I've even considered running Toxic on it to try and triple Mandibuzz, but I've kind of shied away from it since then. It also hits Rotom Heat, though. So again, I think there's a lot of potential with Ferrothorn, and even within like set variants, there could be a lot. You run Stealth Rock, Spikes, again, statuses, Knock, Leech, Whip, Gyro, you name it. I've even seen Body Press a lot, although I don't see much need for that. If you're using Ferrothorn as your primary bitch object, you might just want to reevaluate your team. And I guess it's okay against Excadrill. Not really. It's not really an Excel check either, you know. So yeah, I mean, Ferrothorn's just kind of in this fringe area where it doesn't cover as much as you'd like it to in the defensive checklist, unlike it does in, say, Black, White, or even Oras. So yeah, it's kind of stuck in the middle. But that's fine, it's still viable. Clef, which is viable for 1,000,001 different things. You see it 3 different times here. As a rocker, as a kind of defensive utility, and as a breaker/win condition. So yeah, but it can rock. I don't see it as rocker very often because it's more busy doing other things like breaking with Life Orb, or trying to sweep with Calm Mind, or most commonly rather, being a wish kind of utility, especially defensive/mixed defensive presence. But it can rock. That's about all I have to say on it, unfortunately. X-Drill also can rock with a more of a mold breaker kind of utility set. The set I had here. Oh yeah, by the way, to spread, let's able and check Hall Lucha. But anyway, the set I had here is just Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Iron Head, Rapid Spin. Because you can't really drop Earthquake or Rapid Spin. I guess you could drop Iron Head, but I just wouldn't in a Clefable metagame. Anyway, Como and Hippowdon are the last two. Como is just an okay rocker, nice to check Bisharp. Having a Dark Resist is always cool in this current metagame. Unfortunately, Hydreigon still eats it up, unless it's Scarf and locked into non-Draco. It also is a really cool niche of Wall and Gengar, so don't take advantage of that. And I like running Earthquake. It's able to eat Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Focus Blast, and Thunderbolt just bounces off, of course. Como is a non-issue. Excuse me. Honestly, I was considered running Gleam on on Gengar at some point over Thunderbolt, just because that still does a decent amount to Mandibuzz, but also it's Como. But the trade-off is you don't hit packs as hard. But Shadow Ball oftentimes kills his defensive packs, which you run into a lot nowadays. So definitely something to consider if Como sees a spike in usage. Anyway, moving on. One other thing about Como is I think running like negative speed IVs in it could be cool to try and get a body press off after the roost against Corviknight or Mandibuzz. But I haven't quite got the chance to use that. So if you're trying to experiment with Como, hey, go for that. Might be cool, might be shit. I don't know. That feature is not too congested. You're only really missing out on like Microdon if you creep a little bit, and Aegislash if you creep a little bit. So maybe outspeeding those things is better than underspeeding the Foggers. Or maybe you prioritize keeping rocks up and punishing those Foggers. That's totally up to you and your team composition. And again, that's what I'm saying. While again, it looks like it's kind of cyclical. Again, there's still so many possibilities, infinite possibilities. So do not try and like immediately limit yourself, especially if you're a newer player. Because you don't want to like be known as a person that just uses like one team or one structure all the time. That's not what's up. Anyway, last Pokemon, Hippowdon. Again, it's kind of limited in the screen, but yeah, it just runs specially defensive. Some people don't run Max, but Stealth Rock, Slack Off, Earthquake. I see Whirlwind the most last. It doesn't get toxic anymore. I've actually seen Yawn a couple times, and on top of that, I've seen a few other moves, but nothing too fanciful. Anyway, let's get on. So we've got Stealth Rockers, of course, but then what removes the Stealth Rocks and potential spikes slash toxic spikes is Inferno Threat can spike. So can Diggersby, which is not too common nowadays, and there are probably a couple of other viable spikers out there. And Toxic Spikes, which you'll see all the way down here, can also set up toxic spikes. So that's dope. But yeah, you've got all these removers. So I've kind of segregated them out in two different sides. You've got the really super common defoggers that I mentioned before, and then other methods of hazard removal. Rapid spin being the predominant one from all generations, all the way back from Generation 2. However, there's also Zatu with Magic Bounce that's been around since Generation 5, and then Court Change, a very new move that can be used to flip the field of hazards, which is really cool. So it's essentially a move that would magic bounce all the hazards back on the other side, if you want to look at it that way, I guess. But I just prefer to saying, okay, you just change the court, kind of like go with the name. And like now all of a sudden it's the ball's in his court, but the ball is actually all the hazards. Wow, I just made an ass of myself trying to explain that. But yeah, basically you just flip the hazards. So like if they have like stealth rocks and 3 layers of hazards and 3 layers of spikes on your side, and all of a sudden you use court change and then they're like, fuck, I'm taking 50% on switching. It's not lit. But yeah, so Corviknight's a great defogger, but it also can use like a bulk up set. Unfortunately, I didn't have Ruthless and Wink just because I wanted to go through like all these unique Pokemon, and I decided to list Fable again instead of it. So yeah, because Fable is a bit more common than bulk up Corviknight right now. But you see bulk up sets, usually sub-bu, but also sometimes you see like an agility set with power trip. I'm not too common. I'm not too fond on that, and it's not too common. It's pretty cheesy. But yeah, that's the thing. But mainly, it's a defog kind of utility Pokemon. Steel type is great. It's got a really nice physical bulk naturally, so it tends to invest in special bulk so it can check things like Dragapult. Also switch into fairy types in a pinch, especially if it's not going from Flamethrower from Life Orb Clef, and so on and so forth. You can run a little physical defense on it, but you don't really need it. You still check Extra, for example, pretty well, and you're still following the Conqueror's close combats regardless because they're fucking ridiculous when Guts boosted. So yeah, as for moves on it, you pretty much see Roost and Defog always on the Defog sets, of course. You see one of Brave Bird or Ironhead, usually U-Turn, usually Body Press can find its way in there, Taunt can find its way on there. It just depends on the set, the team composition, and what you want to prioritize. As for Mandibuzz, that's the next common one. It runs Knock, Roost, U-Turn, Defog almost always, and it's Pump Special Defense. It can and has started to run Speed for Aegislash's Neutral Nature, which you see in the Band of Spec sets, which is cool. So you get like 220 speed. You could always run a little more if you want to outrun Max Adamant Bands of Tyranitar, which you don't see too much nowadays, but it's a thing. So yeah, also lets you outrun Adamant Crawdaunt, which could come in handy. But you tend to run max special defense or close to it if you're running that speed creep that I just mentioned in order to let you check Specs Aegislash and Specs Gengar as well as level +2 from Gengar. Also lets you check Nasty Plot non-Life Orb Draco Meteor Hydreigon, so you like live +2 Wise Glasses, +2, or if it's just Flash Cannon, it's not Draco. You have that. You also check Dragapult quite easily. Even Specs Draco is barely doing half. It could run Specs Thunderbolt, and that could be a nuisance, especially if there's any chip on you beforehand, but that's not too common nowadays, so you keep that in handy. It also is nice because it is not grounded, so you can be like immune to Earthquake and whatnot, these pivoting sequences. However, despite that, you're not weak to Rock, weak to Stealth Rock, as long as Heavy Duty Boots are still equipped. So Heavy Duty Boots is really clutch on Mandibuzz. People have been using a ton of that. So yeah, that's great. You see the Unknown, it's just kind of a divider between the two. Obviously, Unknown is not a viable hazard remover. Anyway, yeah, you got Extra with the Rapid Spin, as I mentioned, Cinderace with that Court Change, and Zatu with Magic Bounce, and the new and improved Teleport, which is basically Dry Baton Pass with negative priority, if that makes sense. If not, then just go try it out in a ladder, and I'm sure you'll figure it out. It's very simple. You just use it, and then it's basically like U-Turn, but doesn't do any damage, and it goes last. So that's just another way of putting it into perspective. Now, let's go into a category that is kind of hard to generalize, but I'm going to try and group them. Speed control. It comes in a lot of different forms because you can use like priority, and it happens to this happens to be a tier with multiple strong priority users. On top of Bisharp, which I list predominantly under a win condition with Sucker Punch, because that's a bit less reliable if they're not using an attack move. You also have Conkeldurr with Guts boosted or boosted Mach Punch, and Aegislash potentially with Choice Banded Shadow Sneak. You see the sets here, yeah. So these two can use priority. It's pretty strong. But they are slower Pokemon, so they're not going to be like revenge killing things without the priority. So if they're healthier, then odds are, if they're offensively threatening as well, then they're probably not going to want to go to one of these two to try and use them as speed control or revenge killers. /revenge killers. Revenge killers. Yeah, that's a better title. All right. Anyway, Dragapult is the next up on the block, the chopping block. We're gonna say that he doesn't really need a scarf to be a revenge killer or speed demon, if you will, because it's so naturally fast, being well over 400 speed without a choice scarf. But you can also run a choice scarf on it if you're super paranoid and the rest of your team's pretty slow. I've seen that happen a couple times in the ladder. Not too fond of that because the drop and damage output's pretty mediocre. In general, it makes it a pretty clunky Pokemon, but it still does have U-turn at least to make it a bit less passive. So you can definitely afford that. Another scarf would be Rotom Heat, or you could even use Rotom Wash. I prefer Rotom Heat, despite being Rock Squeak. It offers some pretty crucial resistances, such as Fairy, that can come in handy, and also bits and things like Zaspatoad, which trick. I guess Rotom Wash does that too, but yeah. Um, and then Hydreigon is growing in popularity as a scarf as well as a breaker. It's pretty cool utility right now. U-turn's great. It has great coverage as well. Draco Meteor usually runs Dark Pulse, Fire Blast, less Flamethrower. However, it can also run Flash Cannon over usually the Fire move if you're not minding Fire Thorn, such as say if you have Satu and you want to hit Fire types. But it's not going to KO them without the Life Orb or the Nasty Plot, so you might as well just run Flame. It really depends on the team. And then you got Scarf Dracovish, I guess. You kind of see that here and there. Not as much anymore, but it's potentially Pokemon if you're not facing like Saspatoad, you get chip on that. Moving forward, you can also see Scarf Rotom Mo, Scarf Rotom Wash, as I said before, even Scarf Toxicity. Then Mamoswine can run Ice Shard, Crawdaunt can run Aqua Jet, Bisharp can run Sucker Punch, and so on and so forth. And then there are plenty of miscellaneous Scarfers as well. I've seen Gengar, I've seen Excadrill. Um, yeah, and Cinderace even kind of is pseudo. Um, yeah, pseudo speed control because it's naturally very fast, and you don't really need a Scarfer so much. You need something fast in this metagame a lot of the time. Yeah, Holucha's fast, but it's more of a breaker slash sweeper. Dugtria's fast, but it's more of a trapper. I'm not really discussing this kind of exploits in this video. Yep. So with that, hopefully gives you a lot of information on speed control, revenge killers. It's always important to have those unbalanced slash bulky offensive teams. Next up, we're gonna go to defensive utility, but I've kind of separated this out into like steel and fire types because like those are two pretty important types. Well, you don't need a steel type as much as other generations right now. It's still really nice to have one, and a vast majority of teams will try to integrate one onto the team. Firethorn's one that's great, but again, it's kind of stuck in the middle defensively, so hard to use. Aegislash is a great one because it gives you a fire resist that's actually really bulky, low key when you switch it in and before form change. But then all of a sudden it becomes like super potent offensively once you switch it out. So you can run Band or Specs are my favorite sets. I've also seen Life Orb sets and even Sub Metal Sound sets, but Band and Specs just boom, boom, boom. They're doing damage. They're always doing something in the game. Personally, I think it's borderline broken at this point, just because it's hard to know which one it is. And switching into them is kind of hard. You're always gonna go like Mana Buzz and take like 45 to 50 from Flash Cannon or Iron Head, if not more, especially from Iron Head. And close combat, forget about it, can do a ton. And I mean, also like if you switch your physical wall into a Shadow Ball, you're screwed. If you take your special wall into a Shadow Claw, you're screwed, etc. Ghost is just such a spammable type, which is why I've been running Dark types on almost all my teams. My Mana Buzz usage is through the roof right now. But also you see things like Hydreigon, which can do the trick with Wish Support, especially if it's paired with Wish plus Protect, because Steel Resists are much easier to come by. So if they try and catch that, yeah, then you just go to your Steel Resist, it's fine. The Choice Flack honestly goes a long way, but at the same time, when it comes to checking, it's still a bit prediction reliant, especially if you're not facing a ton of Protect users, and even then it can eventually chip through things. So a well-played aggressive Aegislash can go a long way offensively speaking, and I think it's one of the best Pokemon in the game right now, despite kind of starting off slow in this generation. Anyway, Corviknight, yeah, one we already touched on. You can run bulk up sets, you can also run defog utility sets. It's a great Pokemon right now, and it's going to stay that way through its whole generation. Moving forward, Excadrill is another Steel type. It can run a whole plethora of things. Yeah, I didn't even bother putting sets in because all these Pokemon were also discussed elsewhere pretty much besides Sylveon. But Sylveon, we'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, yeah, so Excadrill can run like Life Orb, Sword Dance, Leftover Sword Dance, Stealth Rock, Mold Breaker, Scarf, utility sets with Rapid Spin, etc. It can be bulkier, it can be more offensive. It really depends on the team, what purpose you want to get out of it. It's a versatile Pokemon, but at the same time, it's also kind of limited within the constraint of the moves it could use, if that makes sense. But it is a Steel type, and it's worth noting. No doubt about that. Moving on to things that Steel types actually used partially for, besides if you're Flame Orb Fable, Fairy types, because Fairy is just Steel Resist Fairy, yeah. So Fable, again, a very versatile Pokemon, so many different issues. Personally, my favorite set's the Wish set, which were like a mixed defense spread to check Hawlucha and a couple other things. Conkeler. top of my head. Not Facade Conqueror anyway, and that's not really a common movement anymore. It runs Earthquake, Close Combat, Drain, Mock usually. Um, but yeah, Clef is great. It can also run Life Orb, as I mentioned before, Stealth Rock, yada yada yada, and then Sylveon is kind of like a clone of it with the Wish set, but it could be a bit more especially bulky naturally, and it does a lot more damage with Hyper Voice than Uninvested Moonblast does due to the ability it has. And on top of all of that, it also has Mystical Fire to drop special attack of things like Clefable or other, Combine setters like Pokemon, and it does a number to Steel types such as Ferrothorn or more offensive Aegislash plus extra. It's going to bounce off of Corviknight, honestly, and even like regular Aegislash. Yeah, so I mean, it has some niche there, no doubt about that. But taking hazards and not become blue status, which is a humongous benefit of using Clefable, is a big problem with Sylveon, and it honestly limits the amount of teams that people really find the appeal enough to use it there over Clefable. So moving on, you see those kind of some defensive utility Pokemon that you see pretty commonly. We're going to go into breakers/win conditions now. I've got 4 whole rows of them, and that's not even covering all of them. That's just most of like the ones that like I'd say like are like B- tier or better in the viability rankings that we went through here. Yeah, as you can see, pretty much. I think I might have included all of the like viable like road breaker Pokemon, but here you'll see that I'm just going to turn the volume down a little bit because my sister's coming home. She just parked. Basically breakers/win conditions. So yeah, as I mentioned, Specs Gengar is great. You can also Life Orb Nasty Plot, really strong Aegislashes from both ends if you really want them to. Another potent Pokemon. I love the Ghost types right now, so I've been gladdering with the dual Ghost team. Conkeldurr, one's kind of like Guts or before attack set. Yeah, I put it here. I just run max speed. Then Hydreigon. It runs more of kind of a Life Orb breaker set with like Nasty Plant, Draco Meteor, and usually Flash Cannon, and then Dark Pulse or Flamethrower. I prefer Dark Pulse usually. But yeah, it depends on the team. It can also run Wise Glasses or the classic Sub Nasty Plot set, I suppose, but those get dicked by Sylveon and even some special defensive fables. So you gotta be hesitant there. Moreover, Hydreigon's is pretty great in general between that and Scarf. Dragapult, again, it just respects speed control and it kind of can hit hard. You could also rarely see a Dragon Dance set. I think that's like super inconsistent, so I'm not a fan of that. But hey, it's out there. You have the ability to use it. And then there's also like Hex variants that run like Sub Hex or Wisp Hex, with Sub Wisp Hex, even Draco. I prefer like Draco using kind of pivot, Wisp Hex, Draco kind of teams. That's cool too. And then Excadrill again can be a Swords Dance, can do all sorts of things. I've already talked about Excadrill 1, 2, 3 times, so we're not going to go into it more. Oh, I don't know, it's going down. I'm now into 2.0, Draco Vish. Yeah, Choice Band set's a really vicious breaker still now. And I mean, you could crunch a couple times in this episode, and then you kind of get able to wear it out. So, yeah, it's not as like fishy, if you will, as other variants. Moving on, both Rotom forms like Canassi Plot, Rotom Mo, and Rotom Heat. Also, Rotom Wash can, but only with Sub Nasty Plot and without both stabs. So like you'd run like Hydro plus Shadow Ball or Discharge plus Shadow Ball, whatever, to beat Seismitoad to take advantage of it eventually, which I just don't think is worthwhile too much. So I kind of listed it below. Anyway, sorry, just check notification on my phone. Yeah, those could run. Anyway, Sword Stance Pretty Sharp is cool. It does have to run Throat Chop to Generation because there's no knockoff distribution quite yet, but still plenty of niche. Then there's Toxicity. Boom Burst is really strong. Can run Life Orb or Specs, or I guess like Wise Glasses, Scarf, you name it. It'd probably work. I've seen Thunder Punch, Fire Punch over Volt Switch to try and hit Ferrothorn, but honestly, with Ferrothorn not being too common, it's just not worth it. You just Boom Burst it 2 times and it does the same anyway, without having the risk of prediction. Moving forward, Hawlucha, a great offensive like weapon right now. Can run Swords Dance, Unburden, then Brave Bird, close combat, you negate the drop with it, and you get Unburden. It's cool. And also just so naturally fast it works out anyway. It's really anti-offense and also fits on hyper offense, so that's cool. Yeah. Moving on, some kind of a mixed bag here. We get into some bulkier ones like Rhea Nicholas, potentially Clefable, although Clefable can run Calm Mind Life Orb or regular Calm Mind. I'm just going through it. Yeah, see the Rhea Nicholas is just kind of same old, and without Pursuit, it's even better. Usually you see Thunder, but you can see it, even Stored Power over Psychic or Energy Ball/Grass Knot. Yeah, Clefable, you see more common with like Life Orb. It can be a breaker, 3 attacks with Flamethrower last, or it can Calm Mind, Moonblast, Moonlight, Thunderbolt. Yeah. Or I can just run like Wish, Calm Mind, Protect, Moonblast. It's cool too. And another fire type we didn't discuss before is Torjikis. And initially I thought post Dynamax it wouldn't be great, but sub Nasty Plot with Air Slash and Flamethrower is actually pretty nice. Personally, I prefer heavy duty boots on it, but some people even run leftovers on that. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, it leaves you without a Wish Fairy type, so you're kind of limited there, but it still is able to check out Dragon in a pinch and a couple other things, so that's cool. Finally, there's Gyarados and Crawdaunt, two water types that can do well. Gyarados with Dragon Dance, Crawdaunt with Choice Band or Life Orb Swords Dance, really +2 Aqua Jet is so scary, and it's got enough speed to outrun all the bulky things like Mandibuzz, and Corviknight without investment. Seismitoad, Parathorn, you name it, and +2 adaptability with attacks, just potent. Then there's Drakazol, you can run Choice Band on it, it's like do really strong if you hit, and connect with Hustle or substitute 3 attacks with leftovers, which is cool. Unfortunately, it's susceptible to a lot of things like Seismitoad, Hippowdon, without the Choice Band, and with Choice Band Lock, it's pretty easy to get rid of, dispose of with things like, Extra Revenge Killing It, or even Dugtrio, Priority, pretty much any faster offensive threat, or Scarfer. So yeah, I mean, Drakazol, unfortunately just hasn't caught on full yet. I don't know if it ever will, but it has a niche, that's for sure. Then there's Obstagoon. You can run this Guts Breaker set. It's cool. It has this move structure that I kind of find interesting, mechanically speaking. Or like kind of like it has like a niche, I think, and it's got nice coverage with normal plus fighting with knockoff as a kicker that gets stabbed. This is pretty cool, but unfortunately, only base 90 attack is not too rewarding with Guts. It's still not super strong. It might end up more of like a BL UU type of threat, but it's still pretty good in OU. It's viable for sure. Como, you see these like Throat Spray, Clangerous. Sets to give it like the boost, and then it fucking hits hard in the special end. On the other side, you can run Belly Drum. I'm sure there's some other physical exploits as well. I haven't seen Choice Como though, and I don't know if I'd fight with that in this current metagame. So there's that. Tar, I don't think I'd use like Dragon Dance sets, but Choice Band is definitely viable. I've seen a couple times in the ladder. It's actually really annoying to face with bulkier teams. Cloister, the notorious, infamous Shell Smasher. Some people run the King's Rock on it. Some people run White Herb. Some people run Sash. But yeah, with the 5 hits and the Shell Smash boost, it's great. At turn, it can run like a bulky Combine set with Key Barrier, TDK. Used to talk about that. Or it can run like Life Orb, 3 attacks with Combine or Trick Room, and it's pretty strong. It also has Magic Bounce, so it kind of shares bulkier teams in a way. And then there's Mammoth Swine, with I actually kind of like right now. It's actually really strong, and it's one of the rare offensive ground types since we lost Gliscor. We still have Excadrill, but that's kind of different. You know, variety. We lost Landorus too, which is huge. And obviously Zygarde isn't in the game, and it was banned last generation. So like, that's another big one we lost. So yeah, Mammoth Swine's pretty cool as well. So that's kind of all of the main breakers slash win conditions that I discuss here. You could go down list Cinderace, but again, it's more of speech and draw utility with Heisen Pokemon. You got Sigilif, sure. There's a bunch of other viable ones. Scented Scorch, I guess. Barrascuda, only on Rain. I'm not talking about Rain teams here. Snorlax, I think it's just later. Oh yeah, Mimikyu. I forgot Mimikyu, so definitely could. That's viable, especially on Hyper Offense. You see that a decent amount. Dreadnought's a Rain Pokemon. Rabambi is a Web Setter. Durant, I don't really think it's viable anymore. Haxorus is kind of cool, not gonna lie. And Poltergeist is kind of Shell Smasher. Not really too fond of it. It's evolved by like Mandibuzz and shit. I don't even know if it can break out Dragon, honestly. But yeah, I wouldn't use it. Too much going against it. Anyway, now let's talk about some like last minute utility Pokemon. Just before I wrap this up. Toxapex is a great one, which we somehow didn't get to yet, just because it didn't really fit in any categories. But while it doesn't fit on every team, it's still really good this generation. And don't doubt that. It wasn't as great in the Dynamax metagame because a lot of things took advantage of it. But now it's kind of doing all right. It's able to check a lot of things. Unfortunately, like a lot of the hard hitters are able to take advantage of it, like Conkeldurr or Choice A, you can Tokyo it. A lot of things can trick it, but it does give him Black Sludge in return, but still it cripples it, obviously. And with Clefable running Amok, meaning that Toxic and Scald are a bit less threatening and wish things up, so it is held back by that, but it still has definitely a niche in the metagame, so don't hesitate to use it. It covers a lot of things. On teams that don't use size, but as a rocker, Gastrodon is a nice utility answer, especially on like more dedicated balances. Kind of vibes with me as one of those Pokemon, so if you see Ferrothorn, Clefable, Excadrill, Como, even Hippo, I guess, as the rockers. Less so Hippo and Drill because like stacking ground types is a bit weird in the metagame right now. See any of like the Pharaoh, Clef, Como teams, and wouldn't be shocked to see Gastrodon, especially with Wish support. Just so it doesn't have to keep repeatedly taking hits and like force recover every time. It also is able to check Dracovish and Rotom Heat similarly, so that's great. Due to water immunity, Grimmsnarl is great for setting up screens. I don't think the bulk up sets have any merit in my eyes. I don't like them at all. But it's cool screen setter. Again, I'm kind of getting into miscellaneous Pokemon here. Ditto. It's great. It's kind of Scarfer. that can like be anti-hyper offense in a sense, but otherwise it's less useful because there's less regenerator in this generation. It could kind of, if it takes a knock, which kind of have to, it's a bit harder in this metagame because knock distribution distance is great, then it could last long against bulkier teams, which is cool, but you can't trace Wish as well because it's really low base HP, so kind of limited there. And rounding things out, you've got Rotom Wash, which I just haven't been able to discuss yet because it hasn't really been like prevalent enough as a Nasty Platter or as a Scarfer in the metagame. It kind of fell off a bit recently. I feel like Rotom Mow is even more common than it, honestly, which is weird. Seeing Rotom Heat and Mow more common, but I digress. Rotom Wash does plenty of niche. It could run Scarf, it could run Utility, it could run Nasty Plot. For sub Nasty Plot's alright, definitely. So yeah, definitely should see as utility. And then Lax, nice ghost check, but it's always going to get tricked or against Aegislash, the physical variant is going to pummel it with close combat. Even Special Variant can trade with it with Steel Beam, 2 KOs. So yeah, Curse generally is Darkest Lair, but it can also run Earthquake if you don't mind missing out on super effective damage on some things. So yeah, Curse Lax is coming back in a way. I guess it makes sense. But yeah, so these are a lot of Pokemon that are viable current meta game, and then some discussion, commentary, and team building, how it's kind of cyclical slash similar slash standardized. I hope you guys enjoyed. I tried to keep this as brief and concise as possible, but let me know if you have any questions and comments or on Smogon. All right, peace.